this meditation adventure, we'll start by going inside and noticing how beingness appears for you and the precious expressions of life in you, the thoughts, feelings, and sensations. We'll get to know beingness as the dance floor and the expressions as dancers. And then we'll turn on some music and we'll have a dance party. What? So here we go. Let's start with just noticing our bodies and the softness of our breath. And then how does this ever-present sky, this beingness, this background, this isness, this okayness, this presence, how does it appear for you now? What's your word? In the interview, we were using words like silence, stillness, peace, okayness, flow, safety, acceptance. What's your word? So as you find this, what's that like? What's the somatic experience of this beingness? This is our dance floor. This is the space that welcomes everything that arises, that accepts this openness. So as we know this dance floor, it's our first tipping point to know the ever-presence of beingness. What's arising in your space? How is this preciousness of life moving through you? Here we just notice the thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And we label those, or just label those in our interview as parts, just to be aware of them. So what are your dancers? What are your expressions right now? As you become aware of them, can you see them almost like it's a theater with a stage, and the dancers are on the stage? What's arising for you? Is there an understanding part, an aspect that's making sense of all of this as a dancer? Can you see that? Is there an achiever or a pusher? Is there a critic, perhaps with shoulds? Is there a skeptic? I don't know about this. Is there a vulnerable expression? Can you see these aspects of you as dancers on the stage? Lovely. That's our second tipping point, called simultaneous awareness, being aware of more than one arising at the same time. And in our life, in this model, we know suffering simply as identifying or blending with one arising. And if we can be aware of more than one at the same time, suffering dramatically decreases in our systems. Then from here, as we're aware of the dance floor, the welcoming, the beingness, and aware of the dancers, can we notice that our dancers are being held? They are on the dance floor. There's a sense of being welcomed by the dance floor, being accepted, being celebrated. This is our third tipping point, and this is where all the healing happens in this model. Because it's like the dancers are soaking in this beingness and this acceptance. And notice there's nothing that has to be done for this, it just happens. And from here, as you notice the dance floor and the dancers, what's the difference between the two? As we notice this beingness, this okayness, this peace, this welcoming, what's the nature of that? Can you find that there's an absence of lack here, an absence of resistance? Some people call it a fullness or fulfillment. What's your word for beingness? And then in contrast, What's the nature of these arisings? Can you find that there is a consistency and a sense of wanting, even if it's a very, very subtle wanting? What's the contrast between the two? That's our fourth tipping point, contrasting nature. Then as we notice these dancers, what is it that they want? What is it that they're longing for? And as we listen closely, can we hear that what they're longing for is ultimately a quality of beingness, an acceptance, a being seen, a being heard, a sense of safety, a sense of flow, a sense of okayness? That's our fifth tipping point, as we hear what the true longings are that arise within us. And then from there, what do we notice that's here now in the dance floor, that is being longed for by our dancers? What's here now? Is there peace here? Is there okayness here? Is there acceptance here? Is there welcoming? Is there safety here? That's our sixth tipping point, recognizing what's here now. And then we notice in this beingness, in this dance floor, is there an intimacy with what arises here? Is there an intimacy with these dancers? How intimate are you with the dancers? And can you notice the edges of your capacity for intimacy? That's the seventh tipping point, as we become aware of this intimacy, as well as that current capacity. And then in this intimacy, if I ask you, how are you? If I ask you now, how are you? Notice your response. That this response either goes to a sense of fulfillment, okayness, absence of lack. It goes to a beingness. I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm happy, I'm peaceful. Or the how are you goes to one of the dancers. There's a sense of some kind of subtle wanting. Just notice that. This is our eighth tipping point. It's just this sense of noticing as our sense of identity shifts back and forth from beingness to parts. And then our last one, from the spaciousness, from this dance floor, from this beingness, as we're aware of the dancers, how do we see them? How do we see the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that arise within us? From this spaciousness, from this okayness, can we glimpse an innocence, a beauty in what arises within us? I'm going to transition. Are you ready for the party? So here we are as the space, as the dance floor, and we notice the arisings, the parts, the dancers. Can they feel the music? Can our dancers, can they sense this space of welcoming, the safety that's here, the openness, the inclusion, the celebration of them? And what happens? How do they move? How do they express? Maybe the skeptical part we spoke of is here, or maybe there's a vulnerable part, off in the shadows. Can they all feel the acceptance that's here? There's no judgment from this beingness. It's just this welcoming. Can they feel the welcoming? Everyone is welcomed. And this song, We Are Family, are these aspects of you alone? Or can they sense the connectedness? That they don't have to carry everything on their shoulders. That there's a sense of being in this together. How do they move? Can they feel the freedom here? The play, the openness? How do you move in that when you are being welcomed and held in this beingness? And then, what is it, as we notice our dancers, what is it that they want? What is it that they long for? Can you feel their longing as they dance? Can you feel that? Can you feel their longing? the tipping point. And then, what's here now? As we hear the longing, what is here now? Can you find in this beingness, in this dance floor, in this space, the fulfillment, the okayness, the peace, the acceptance, the love, that which is being longed for? Can you find what's here now? Parts, is there enjoyment here? Can the dancers enjoy this space? This freedom, this fun, this play? What's it like to be you? What's it like to be you, expressed as these dancers, being held in the beingness, in the welcome, in the celebration, in the acceptance? What's this like? Can they feel the connectedness? Can they feel the warmth of acceptance? What's this like? Is there okayness here? Is there freedom? Is there play? Is there fun? What's the feeling? What's the feeling here? What's this like for you? What's this dance party? What are you finding as your parts, as your dancers play and dance? It's such a pleasure to be with you today.